All right, Jackie, it's you and me, girl.
Lovely. Everybody's going. Fantastic. Well, it's nice to see a few faces coming in. Hello, Mary. Hello, Marion.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Wonderful. So nice to see lots of people coming in. We're going to get started pretty quickly. Um, Welcome everyone to our live forum with Bonnie Fitzgerald. It's going to be a fun and interesting conversation, I think, this morning. Just to let you know that we are recording, so if you would and don't want to be seen on screen, if you'd just like to pop off the video, and also make sure that you are all muted. That would be wonderful. I want to start off by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands across Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand, and pay our respects to elders past and present. We honour the enduring cultural practices of making, storytelling, and creativity that have flourished here for countless generations. These lands are home to some of the world's oldest continuing art traditions, and we recognise the deep knowledge and care held by First Nations artists, makers, and communities. Well, welcome, Bonnie Fitzgerald. I'd just like to introduce Bonnie to everybody. She is an American artist, author, and educator of over 20 years. She's worked and shared her experience with students from beginners right through to experienced artists, and has led international workshops and runs travel adventures to places throughout Europe, including Barcelona, Mexico, and I think in 2027, Bonnie is heading off to Greece. She is the founder and owner of Maverick Mosaics and is the exclusive instructor of contemporary mosaics for the Smithsonian Institution's Studio Arts Department since 2014. And she's also created a vibrant YouTube channel called Make It Mosaics, which is filled with lots of technical advice, projects, and good humour. So, welcome, Bonnie. It's
Hi,
lovely
how
to
are
see
you?
you. Where are you joining us from today?
I am in my studio in Northern Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. I'm about a 15-minute drive to the White House. Not that we're going there.
Hi. And this is all your work at the back. It looks fabulous.
Yes, I tidied up because I know I was having special company today. And yeah, I've been on a bit of a smalty kick lately, so a lot of smaller pieces hanging out. And we really like some of our work. Sometimes we don't want to do anything with it except enjoy it ourselves for a while. So that's
Yeah.
what lives behind me is stuff I'm not quite ready to let go of yet.
Yeah, lovely. And we'll talk a little bit about some of that, as I can see behind you, as we move on through the conversation. We are so excited that you're coming to Australia in October for the Man's International Symposium in Brisbane, and you're going to be presenting there and also running workshops, which we're very excited about. And you're also doing a workshop tour before the symposium. And I know that you're coming to New South Wales on the 26th and 27th of September, and of course, Victoria on the 3rd and 4th of October. We would love to find out lots more about you. Perhaps could you start off by telling us how you first fell in love with mosaics?
It was a long and winding road. But my very, very first mosaic, I was in grade school, and I oddly enough really vividly remember it because it's an image that I've made many times over and over. And not that I have that first mosaic, but it was made with eggshells. It was like during the Easter holidays, and the teacher and I was quite young. It was elementary school for sure. And I was so proud of this piece, and I took it home, and my mother really loved it, and we kept it until it like fell apart, which is kind of cool. And and I recently wrote a blog post about this that same image has come up, and I've used it many times in totally different environments over the years, which is kind of fascinating. But when I really learned about mosaics, after 3 gap years after high school, I went to a liberal arts college and I walked into a ceramic studio and it was like, yeah, this is where I belong and not how, other courses I was taking there. And the instructor, oddly enough, he was a monumental sculptor and he's kind of a one-man show in the art studio, but he made mosaics and he was making mosaics for churches and architectural installations in South Florida. And so he taught me that, and we were using stained glass, and I didn't know it, but we were using Mexican smalty that he was bringing from the Perdomo factory. So it was kind of a back entry to it. Like I didn't know about the whole Italian thing going on for many years. I made mosaics for a lot of years before I really understood or became educated about the whole tradition coming out of Europe. So it was really an odd entry into the field. I'm kind of grateful that's the way it worked out because
Yeah,
I came to it with an innocence and not and no expectations. I was making all kinds of things out of pieces for the fun of it.
yeah. Which
Yeah,
is wonderful. Which is
yeah,
what we like to have a bit of experiment and try different things, don't we? Like
we do.
using all sorts of different materials. Yeah. How would you describe your work to someone, I think, new to mosaics, who perhaps hasn't seen your work before?
That I proudly try and take unique approaches, honoring the rules as best I can, but I try to be really true to whatever the goal is that I set for a work. I'm a goal setter. That's just the way my brain operates. So I enter a piece and my goal is that, gee, I really want to master this material. Gee, I really have had this image in my head, and I really see this material being that part of it. And so my goal was to how do I make the rest of the piece work? So I try to approach my personal pieces as a personal assignment. And I have a pretty long list going. I'm like way behind in pieces that are in my head. I've gotten better about recording the desire. And not that I'm a big
Yeah,
journaler, but I've gotten way better about keeping track of, well, that's a really interesting idea, and I really want to pursue that. And so it's on the list because you can't fix everything in one piece. That's not going to
no,
happen.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. Kate, I don't know if Caitlin's got some shots. Caitlin, would you be able to pop on some of the images that uh, Bonnie has given us so that we can look at? Um, and then, Bonnie, perhaps you can give us a little bit of insight about
Oh,
how
sure.
you've
This
approached
this
these.
is a
What
great
inspires your
example.
designs?
This assignment, I'm really fascinated by watercolor paintings, and I've done a lot of watercolor painting, and I don't feel I just do them because they're fun. I don't publish them, I don't show them around much, but I'm really interested in this idea of taking watercolor paintings and turning them into mosaic because watercolor is so soft and there's just a really beautiful light quality to it that's very unique. So in this exact piece, I wanted to take a watercolor, which I did not paint. This was a royalty-free image because I wanted to also be able to use the image in future workshops. And I really wanted to tackle this idea. So this had been a watercolor painting, and it was super soft and quite magical. And and then I just worked it and worked it and worked it until I was happy and felt that I captured that quality, that really special, almost heavenly quality that watercolor gives us, and made it out of the hard material of smalty. So that that
Mm,
was that was my goal for this piece. And this is not a very
mm,
big piece. It's 10 inches by 10 inches. It's the same size we'll be working of in the flower workshop I teach when I'm there.
lovely. And Bonnie, I know this is another one that you've done called Pablo. Um, I know you said you sort of go with the flow, but and plan a little bit. So you plan things, or do you respond to materials as you go?
I actually walk both sides of the road. So, yes, I have a basic plan like the previous one. I had a very, very simple contour drawing ish, so that I was following basic lines because that had a very strong horizon. This piece, on the other hand, so I received a bunch of this Marcellus shale, a bag of it, right? So that's Western Pennsylvania. It's from Rachel Sager. I'm longtime friends with Rachel. I've been there many times. And
Oh,
from the moment I saw that shale, I knew it was his hair because I've looked at this portrait. Picasso's my favorite artist. I've looked at this portrait dozens and dozens of times. And I always knew I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't know the how or the why. And then I saw the shell and it was like, well, dang, that's the hair. And this piece, what always fascinated me about it as a painting were those really strong, graphic, yet not perfect lines, really straight black lines. So the challenge for me was to really capture this and so I have a habit sometimes of, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I sat down to do this and when I had struggled all the way through it, and it was a lot, right? Because I started with the hair, which is not the place one should start with a portrait, in my opinion. I believe with portraits, you should start with the eyes and join
mm,
to the nose and then build from there. But I just had to get that darn hair down. And
thank you.
so I worked it and got this till I was happy. And then I finished it and it wasn't in this shadow box. And what I realized was, dang, I cut his head off. Like I felt it was incomplete. And so miraculously, someone who went into senior living shows up at my house as they're cleaning out their studio and gives me a couple more bags of this Marcellus shale. And it was like, maybe this is the solution. Because I couldn't move forward with it. I didn't want to frame it because it just didn't feel finished. And so then I came up with this idea of a shadow box idea. So it's a very deep frame. It's 2 US inches deep, right? And I built that up and laid the shale in it to frame the piece. And I outlined the piece is the long straight lines on either side is actually stained glass on the ribbon edge, cut in long strips, so that I needed to expand the piece, but I still wanted to box the piece in. And as soon as I started doing it, it was one of those things where I just like sat down and did it all in one sitting. I had to
Yeah.
fix it. So it was kind of an interesting challenge. And the son of a gun just kept talking back to me, like, you got to figure this out, girl. Yeah, yeah. So,
It's
so I'm really
amazing.
happy with that piece. And this was another piece where, so my assignment was because I had negative feedback on social media, right? That happens because I had made a comment on a student's work and her automento was not the same size because I didn't know that it had to be that opus vermiculatum was supposed to be in the true European tradition about the same size, right? That all of your pieces should be about the same size. And so I really wanted to figure this whole automento idea out and do this proper vermiculatum around the fish. So again, I grabbed the board. I came across this small tea. I had taken a workshop in at Orsoni 20 years ago, and I forgot I had the box of these fabulous colors I was cleaning, right? And it's like, well, I got to do something with this. So I grabbed the board and I make the fish, and now I'm going to do my vermiculatum, and I do it, and I finish the piece, and I realize, oh, his head, the vermiculatum's falling off the canvas. So I again have this problem, and I did this before I did Pablo. I had this problem though of, well, dang, the piece isn't finished, and so I did I had a larger frame that the piece gave me enough room to do the pink frame, and
Yeah.
and so I solved it. So I went into it with a very specific little line drawing that I had for years of a Byzantinian fish. It was just
Mhm.
a simple design, and so play with it and play with it, and then had to bail myself out again.
Yeah.
I,
But that's
I'm
that's what
working
we do,
harder at
isn't it?
that not happening.
That's part of the process, though, isn't it, Bonnie?
It is.
You're you're experimenting, you're trying different techniques, you're trying to improve a technique that you're learning, and things happen. Things don't go the right way, and it's okay to take it off and to redo it.
Yeah.
And it's really part of that learning process as we grow and develop as artists. I noticed that
You're making a
you've been
really
using.
good point, Jackie, about the
Mm,
learning process. I think that it's important that we always approach a piece that I'm going to learn from it and have a certain curiosity and sense of discovery about it.
mm,
For me, that propels the work better. I feel like I do a better job because I go into it, and I really try to get students to go into with the mindset that this is, no matter how great this is or how not great it is really a learning process, and I'm going to be better as a consequence of making this piece.
yeah. And it's
So good.
sometimes it's that difficulty, if we can get through that difficulty, that's where the learning is. Um, that if we
Yeah.
can get past that, we go, okay, that's okay. And it's something that
Yeah.
we've learned and we can move on. Yeah. This beautiful piece called The Winter Pear is lovely. I noticed that you're using a lot of smalty. Do you have a favorite material or technique?
I go through phases. Part of the small tea phase, quite honestly, my friend who brought me the Marseille shell, she also brought me a boatload of small tea. And I've been on this moratorium for the last year of really trying not to buy stuff, but to use what I have in my world. So that was a part of this. And I teach small tea classes, uh, and I find this fascinating. I teach a small tea class periodically online, and the feedback from the students across the board is, but Bonnie, we really like to just watch you work and problem solve. Um, and so I try to dedicate a nice chunk of time of any class actually working a piece. So I started this in one of those online workshops, and it's based on a fabulous painting that I did not do that I found years ago. Um, and called the artist because I wanted to use it in a realism class at the Smithsonian that we were doing with stained glass. And the painting was magnificent. And I made the pear, and the pear, okay, I ended up being pretty happy with. The background is nothing like the painting because I was so tortured by it not working. Just could not make it work that I had beat up the substrate so bad with removing stuff that I actually, fortunately, had been working on a very thin piece of Weddy board, and I was able to cut the pear out and mount it on another board and give it this very simple other background. Because I just had to get over it. I just had to finish it. It was this was a huge learning experience. And the challenge, I think, for me, going back to that painting story, is it was an
Mm,
oil painting. It wasn't a watercolor painting. And I think that messed with my head. I really had difficulty and just said, yeah, I got to be true to the piece, and I love the pear. So what else can I do?
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
And
Well,
this
it's
background
beautiful.
is very different from anything. So the bottom is more that Marseille shale, but the top are it's a small tea pour that Perdomo makes, the place in Mexico, but they're called Zenza. And
Hmm.
I had a student who was doing a different primary subject and out of small tea, and she too was really struggling. And she ended up doing a very simple brick background and a really neutral color. And it was amazing how it kind of saved her piece. And I reflected back on that, and it was like, yeah, I remember Kate doing that. I think I'm going to try it. And so
Mm,
that was it was such a wow, yeah, I learned so much from my students. It's pretty
yeah,
awesome.
it is a fabulous connection that you have when you are teaching with
Yeah,
others and learning from each other. And you're known for teaching, Bonnie. You've been teaching for a very long time.
very long
What do you
time.
what do you enjoy most about working with students?
Um, I think the reward of seeing the light bulb go off Wow. A lot of people come to workshops saying, well, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I do a lot of beginners because I feel the need to, that we want to get folks into the game. So when they start to be really proud of what they're working on, like I'm super proud, that they and
Yeah,
I hear laughter, I hear real pleasure happening as a part of the experience. That's super rewarding to me. It's kind of
yeah.
the best.
Oh, that's wonderful. And the I know that beginners face a lot of challenges in mosaics. What do you think are the most common challenge that beginners face, and how do you guide them through it?
Well, that's such a complex question. I kind of survey like what did they buy as far as the workshop is, right? And kind of survey the levels of the people in the room because clearly some things I do are just for beginners. I'm only going to have beginners, but a lot of workshops I'm an advocate of opening to all levels because
Mm,
we learn so much from each other. Even somebody brand new may bring something to the party for somebody really
mm,
experienced. It is so unexpected because there's an innocence right there. Um, so I try and unpack any given class based on the people. So when I teach a workshop, the first thing we do is introduce ourselves and tell me why you're here, kind of your 30-second elevator speech. And that gives me great insight as to how to unpack the class because sometimes we might have to really start with some basics like this is your cement-based adhesive and this is how we are going to use it. A lot of times I will have students do just a very small, maybe 2 inch by 2 inch, like a little piece in the morning of the first day. Let's understand our material. Let's not worry about a design. Let's do a little cutting. What is our adhesive? Kind of get them comfortable with that. And then we dive into a larger, more meaningful piece so that there's a comfort level established there. And
yeah,
and if you have experience, you'll work way faster at that little piece, and that's great. And then, but that I think that helps me be better informed, and it really helps the students jump in and not feel intimidated. I
yeah,
hope that's
yeah.
what they're feeling.
That sounds a lovely approach, Bonnie, and it does. It's daunting for anybody coming into a class to sort of, work out where they fit. And it sounds to me like you make everybody feel very comfortable. Um,
Well,
and
I have
do you,
rules about how I do it, and part of it is um, I and I learned. I have to admit, one of the people I learned best from about classroom management is Miss Marion Shapiro. Organized, had kind of a timetable, even though the students don't know that. Like I really have this is where we need to be at a certain point. I just don't tell them that. I know that. But I learned a great deal from watching Marion teach when she came
yeah,
to the United States and actually stayed at my home one year. It was really a great pleasure and a great time. So by doing that, students understand that there's a process. Like I'm always going to get to you, but I do it in order, and I go around the
mm,
room,
mm,
and I wear really
mm,
comfortable shoes.
yes.
You know,
And I guess that over the years of teaching too, you will have picked up lots of different ideas and techniques. And you have written two amazing books, Compendium of Mosaic Techniques and a Guide to Mosaic Techniques. I have to say, Bonnie, I have both of these. Um,
thank you.
I teach as well, and they are always in my kit, and my students and I always refer to them. They're a great resource. What was
Thank
the
you.
catalyst to writing these books?
Well, I- just just all about timing. I just picked up the phone one day in my studio, and at that point in time I had a commercial studio, and it was a publisher and a gentleman named Bill Buckingham who I served on the SAMA board with way back when. They had talked to him because he was publishing a magazine called Mosaic Art Now, and they
Mm,
asked him to write a book, and he didn't want to. And so he said, I think you should call this person. And they called me. And that first book was really challenging because they wanted me to repurpose something like 60% of existing other books that the licenses had come up on. And prior to being a full-time artist, I spent 15 years working in the television industry. And part of my job was that I researched photographs and stock footage and I cut the licensing deals. I made the deals to acquire them for whatever the production purpose was. So I knew how to use those electronic libraries before electronic libraries were popular. So I ended
Mm.
up being a really good fit for them. And in the end, I got to do way more not repurposing, so I still satisfied their need, but the ratio changed greatly. And so my husband acted as he called himself Mr. Kenneth, the photographer. And so I was able to use a lot of new artworks by people I knew through the Society of American Mosaic Artists. So it was kind of being a writer, but it was as much about satisfying a bunch of other needs that the publisher had. And then that book
Mm.
did like phenomenally well. And yeah, I don't get anything for it. I've never been good at cutting deals for myself. I cut really good deals for other people. Um, but that was okay because I wrote that first book, that a whole bunch of other doors opened for me, like being invited to work for the Smithsonian, which I've done for
Yeah.
13 years. So it's pretty phenomenal. And then the second book, they gave me a much greater freedom because they realized that there was a market. And the first book was published in 5 different languages. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Kelly Knickerbocker called me from the bookstore in Ravenna, and she said, "I can't believe what I found." And it was like, wow, how about that? So I actually have a copy of that first book in Italian.
Wow, that's so exciting.
I think
Well,
it's
that's fantastic.
mind-blowingly weird, quite frankly, because it's like they talk about imposter syndrome. It's like, wow, do I really deserve even that? Like it was quite humbling. I'm
Yeah,
really glad I did them.
yeah. Well, I mean, they're fabulous resources, Bonnie. So, thank you.
You are very
What
welcome.
keeps you motivated creatively when with your mosaics?
That's an interesting question. Um, Sometimes I just feel it's about the work and I just have to keep having this forward momentum. So when I left show business, it was because I decided I was not a good candidate to work in corporate America. And not,
Mm,
and trust me, the entertainment business is not exactly corporate America, but there's a lot of that structure, any real business. And that I really wanted to live a creative existence and that I was going to figure it out. And so I've done a lot of different things to figure out paying the rent, like having a commercial studio and having artists like Marion come and teach there. I did that model for a while. What I've decided in the last couple of years, and so after I gave up that studio, because as any of you know who have a commercial space, the first bill you have to pay is your rent. And so that's really hard work. And that it was like I was not making enough art then. I was working really hard just to pay the rent. So when I moved everything to my home, I really made the commitment that I had to be creating on a pretty regular basis. And I went down lots of different roads. I for a while was doing architectural installations, but that I always had something in the works that was of a creative nature, and most often either sculpture or um, mosaic. I do have a deep love for clay and still mess
mm,
around on a kiln and
yeah.
in a
I
slab
think as
roller.
artists, it's
Yeah.
nice to have a dabble in all sorts of different
Yeah.
mediums, isn't it?
Yeah.
They feed into each other.
Yeah, although I'm really mindful of the rabbit hole because like some things I just won't let myself do any more than I've already done because I like glass fusing, I can't go there. Somebody actually gave me a kiln and I sold it and gave the money to World Central Kitchen. It was like, yeah, I just know myself well enough to know that I'll go down this road. because I love making mosaics. I love taking all of those pieces and figuring it out. It's and at this point I can usually express an idea fairly quickly if it's meant to be. If it's not meant to be, it sits on my bench for 6 months and then it may find its way to the garage, to the shed, or to a box or something.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But so Bonnie, you're coming over to Brisbane to present at the International Symposium.
Mm.
And I know you're going to do a couple of workshops there from the ground up mosaic methods and materials. Can you tell us a little bit about what we could
Sure,
expect in that workshop?
sure. So that workshop came about as a challenge from Pam Givens, who is the founder of Contemporary Mosaic Artists in the US, which is an international organization. But she really wanted me to go to a conference they hosted in Eugene a few years ago, Eugene, Oregon, which Helen was at. And she said, Bonnie, I really, really want something. We have a lot of beginners. That's a 1 day something. What can you do? And I kind of thrive on challenges. And so it was like, all right, let me think about this. So I started to lesson plan and came up with this class to teach in person. And I taught it in Eugene and I learned a lot and it was a big hit. And it was the goal was that I wanted folks with a little experience or no experience to have a broader understanding of what their options were because if I face it, it is mind-blowing when
Mm,
people start to understand what contemporary mosaics are, it's mind-boggling. It can be so many different things. And so what I learned were, oh, well, we should just try and do this many little pieces and people really enjoyed X, Y, and Z. And then I transitioned that to an online class where I would mail a kit. Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. It's like it's really a lot of work for me to properly prepare a kit to send to people because I'm a huge advocate that you should know about cement-based adhesive
mhm.
and the other options. And so now I've refined it and I teach it as a 1 day class where your head is spinning when it's done, but boy, you have a lot of great information.
Yeah.
And you've really had the opportunity to feel that material and smell it and look at it and well, I really like that or that's super interesting because you won't get that experience in a workshop that's about smalty or a workshop that we're only using stone.
Mm.
That opportunity isn't there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, your focus is on that particular material, and
Yeah.
especially in a large class, you don't get a lot of opportunity to be able to spend,
Hmm.
time on those really basic things that we need to understand and learn. And that sounds really wonderful that you've put all that together and you give that a lot of focus as well.
And I could do it in large part because of the YouTube channel with Kim Wozniak. And not because
Mm,
of Kim, but because I would have friends say to me, gosh, Bonnie, I could really use a video. I wish when I was first starting, somebody had made a video that just talked about the basics, that I could go to and just see what my adhesive options are, what my substrate options are, what can go outside, and um, and so that stock of knowledge really made lesson planning for that Mosaic Basics
mm,
workshop to come about and I had fabulous images and I try and stay up on what's the latest in binders and the latest in
mm.
grouts and that's getting exhausting because they keep
Yeah,
changing things but nonetheless
yeah.
I try
It
to
is
stay up.
daunting when you look at how much is out there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And in that particular workshop that you're doing at the symposium, Bonnie, you're also going to be working with Smalty and working in some samples. You'll be focusing
Yeah.
on doing some actual
Oh
hands-on
yeah, yeah, yeah.
work. Yeah,
So we put out the buffet.
yeah.
Sometimes we give, everybody a plate full of stuff, and then there'll be some other supplemental materials. And so we try. they're small, they're like this big. And we try doing cement-based adhesive. We try just using a well bond. Do you want an option if I because some people have a real aversion to cement-based adhesive. I get that. So what are some alternatives? I show some tricks there. I really want people to understand basic cutting. So we try and make a couple of small pieces, like three or four.
Mm,
And
mm.
because it's also really great to leave a workshop with something. And isn't it really great when it's something done? Because that doesn't always happen.
Yeah,
Like if
something finished.
something there's reward in that. And I call them studio studies. They're not meant to be coasters or don't call it a coaster or they're really meant for your personal learning and as a reminder. Gee, I really liked that color combination. Oh, I really do like when I see small T next to stone. Oh, I like stained glass more than I thought I would. That those kinds
Yeah.
of lessons. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're also going to do, as we mentioned, doing some workshop tours prior to
Mhm.
the symposium. So you're going to New South Wales on the 26th and the 27th of September, and also Victoria on the 3rd and 4th of October. And you're going to be running workshops called Australian Flora in Smalty. So materials, methods and motive. Can you explain a little bit about what participants will be looking at?
Right. So these are samples. I made the one on the upper left, and volunteers in Australia made the other three to give a sense of some of your options. So we have these four different flowers to choose from, and then we will manipulate however you, the artist, feel suits you best, from cropping to cutting to exactly what you want to use to interpret the piece. With this workshop, our very first assignment will be to make a small little something that gives you a chance to cut some materials. We're definitely gonna use cement-based adhesive, and we'll color it. And we have a couple of different color options. So I want you to go into it with a little bit of knowledge that we'll spend just an hour or two really fiddling through some, oh, that's what you mean by this, Bonnie. Oh, yeah, this fits better this way. I think I'll try this over here. And then we'll spend the rest of the time working our pieces. And all of these pieces, the backgrounds are primarily the cement-based adhesive. The flannel flower, it looks like it's mosaic. What I've done there is I've put just little, I call them pieces of confetti, just little drops of the same green background. It's mosaic in full the bottom half, but the upper half is actually black thin set with
Mm,
dark green drops of smalty in it. I like to be pretty selfish about my artwork, and I encourage my students to be pretty selfish. I love to do little tricks that keep the viewer engaged, that sends their eye wandering around my canvas and doesn't want to leave it. And so I find
yeah,
little so I like to do little tricks. Like I really like when we do texture in that. If I'm not going to mosaic the entire surface, the like the texture of the wareth. How do I pronounce that? The lower right, the wareth flower.
the lower right, the wattle or the waratah?
The lower right one.
The
Like
waratah.
that's lovely. The red one with there's a bit of a
Yeah,
texture to that background, a little scraping with a spatula. So there's lots of options to be played with.
yeah,
And we don't necessarily have to mosaic the entire canvas unless we want to. And we have to,
yeah,
so time permitting kind of thing.
yeah.
But these are
And so Bonnie,
beautiful. I really like them.
they look fabulous, and so the workshop, I mean, definitely suited for beginners and for also um, people who have got a little bit more experience as well. There's plenty of scope there to
Yep,
expand your own skill and knowledge base too, isn't it? It's what we've been discussing through the
yeah.
conversation. It's working off one another and also being able to tap into your knowledge and your skill level,
Absolutely. And
which
it's really fun to have a chance to interpret something so beautiful. Like I think these
Mm,
floral images are just gorgeous. I had a really tough time picking which one I wanted to do. And eventually I
mm,
hope to do them all. I think they're a great collection.
yeah. So for those people that are for looking at the screen that we've got up, we've got the workshops listed here, and we've got the QR code on the Australian Flowers with Smalties. So you can link into that. And also, we've got the website down the bottom at events at the humanitics.com for the tour tickets. So we know that we've got places available still in both New South Wales and I think there's one left in Victoria. So please get on and book your spots because these are going to be absolutely fabulous workshops, Bonnie. And I think
Yeah.
the people will get so much out of just being together in one place, being able to access all the materials and to share your skills and knowledge. I wonder whether we perhaps, Caitlin, we could open questions up. Has anybody got anything that they would like to ask Bonnie? I know we've got a couple of things down in our chat.
Great.
Jackie, this is Caitlin. So there was
Hi,
one
Caitlin.
question that came in from David Lacey, and this is a question for Bonnie. Bonnie, what work were you doing at the Smithsonian for 13 years? Can you tell us more about that?
Oh, sure. Happy to. Um, when I was pre-COVID was different than post-COVID. So pre-COVID, they had always had a contemporary mosaic instructor, and it was a gentleman named Alfredo Radanoff who wanted to retire. And he and I knew each other, so he did introduce me to the Smithsonian folks. But they have a pretty rigorous interview process. And the short story is that they hired me for one summer and then I didn't leave for 13 years. I mean, I'm still there. And what was fabulous is that the classes were 8 weeks and I would teach two classes a day. I would teach an afternoon class and take a 3 hour break, and then I would teach an evening class. And when when you have 8 weeks, you can do some really fabulous work. So for a number of years, that was the cycle we would run. And so I had them doing everything from piqué assiette to working in stained glass. I had storage there, so we could really expand our horizons. And it was so great for me as an instructor because I was always being challenged to come up with something. I started to get some groupies, and I was always challenged to give them something more interesting to do. So it was a really fabulous experience. And then unfortunately, March 20th happened on 2020. And
Mm,
yeah, like we're done. And so uh, it just stopped. And I will say the Smithsonian was amazing because they really quickly pivoted to figuring out online learning and online
mm,
teaching. And they hired professionals and they trained the instructors and they always gave us tech support. So that was good. Um, but those 8 week classes will never come back. And now, sadly, the administration overseeing much of the Smithsonian, they don't have two nickels to rub together. I continue to go there because I love the people that I meet there, and the people who work there work so hard. And I just feel it's a privilege to be there. And it doesn't exactly pay the rent, but that is okay. I
yeah,
just really need to, and I also get really, really interesting students there that I would not get otherwise because especially when we were doing the 8 week classes, a lot of people were not taking my class because they wanted to learn about mosaics. They did not want to sit in traffic. Yet I got them addicted. So good for us, right? That we got more
yeah,
people, making mosaics.
yeah.
And I teach for them on a regular basis still online. And I was just there today teaching a workshop in person. I do try and go downtown about 4 times a year, but it's not the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bonnie. That's lovely to hear all about that. Has anybody else got any questions at all? It could be about the workshops, if you're thinking of coming along. I think there's one from Lisa there, Caitlin. Um, Lisa Spears says, oh, it's gone.
She says, "Hi Bonnie, when will we expect the tools list for the symposium workshops, as I'm worried I won't have the right ones?"
Oh, great question. Um, for the symposium workshop, primarily we'll be using wheel tools and simple nippers. So, Caitlin, when do you think we would send those out? That
In
list.
the month before the event, but I can tell you, Lisa, what you need now. It's just wheeled nippers, a small spatula for
Yeah.
spreading thin set, some tweezers, and some safety glasses. So we do also offer to supply tools to those who do not have them. So Lisa, for example, if you didn't have any wheeled nippers, you just let me know and then we can arrange for extras or spares to be used in the workshop by you. So
Yeah.
the list is not particularly extensive. There'll also, of course, be a vendor's market at the symposium. So there's always a
Mm.
chance, if you're really wanting to pop in and buy your own, there's a chance to purchase some tools and materials on site as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like to, and I always like to be in touch with students a good 3 to 4 weeks in advance so that just so that we can start to wrap our heads around what we're doing. You know,
Yeah.
the other thing I want to add to that list was cement-based adhesive, an apron. Because I trash an apron one a year because I just use it instead of disposable towels. I just kind of wipe things on my lap, you know. It's a bit, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good,
And
because I'm all about once I'm in the groove, I just want to work fast. And so that's faster than me stopping to wipe things off. I just wipe it on myself. It's
yeah,
okay. Yeah,
yeah.
it's fun.
That I do that too. I think I've got quite a few aprons that are just seen a better days, but that's okay. And also, I saw Lisa that you mentioned safety glasses, but I know that if you don't have those, I know that the hosts will have some of those on hand too. So we'll make sure that we've got extra supplies at our studios so that we've got things there in case people don't have them. And pen and paper too, Bonnie, I guess a good thing to
I do
have.
like it for folks to take notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oddly enough, I think one of our most helpful tools is our phone. Not for a
Mm,
phone, but to take pictures along the way. Um, photos photos are invaluable. From I put
yeah,
it down and I need to deconstruct it, and now I don't remember what I did, to gee, does that look right?
yeah,
I can swipe it and make it black and white. Do I have enough contrast? There's just so many shortcuts as a consequence
yeah,
of that little computer we hold in our hand.
absolutely. And
Yeah,
it gives you a lot of better perspective, doesn't it? It's sometimes better to walk away, take a photo, walk away
absolutely.
from your piece and then come back. And you come back with clearer eyes.
Absolutely. I always try if I'm in a workshop and I'm working a piece to take a picture before I break for lunch and
Mm,
and then and then look at it when I first come back. And I really try and be in the habit when I'm done anything for the day to snap a picture of it. And before I look at it in person, I look at that picture the next day
mm,
because
mm.
I'm more objective. We're more objective.
Yeah, I agree.
Face it, you just spent 20 minutes working something and you look at the picture and it's like, I gotta remove those 9 pieces. Yeah. So, so look at it in the morning. You're not as insulted with yourself.
Yeah. Caitlin, is there any other questions at all?
No further questions, Jacqui?
No further questions? Okay. I did actually see one about a design. Um, should I be preparing ideas? Sophia has sent one. I really look forward to your class. Should I be preparing ideas or designs for the Smolty workshop, Bonnie?
Um, we will select one of those 4 flowers, but we have photographs of them, right, Caitlin? That's how we'll do that. And the
Yeah.
reason we want to make these offerings is so that we can buy the appropriate amounts of material. So we'll be asking everyone to select which flower they want to do a bit in advance so that we can acquire those proper materials. Um, like that's how we're going to
Yeah.
handle that, right, Caitlin? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
but as
that's right.
far as making a pattern or what have you, we'll cover all of that in the workshop. There's really no advanced work other than, oh, I want to make the flannel flower. It's just selecting one. And
Yeah.
we'll have a
That
process
sounds,
for that. Yeah.
yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. I think that's really given a very good overview of the workshops and also about your
Oh, I'm so
amazing life.
excited to
But
be coming. You have no idea. First of all, your beautiful continent has been on my bucket list like forever.
yeah,
And I've just met so many nice people that are Australian, of different conferences I've been to. And again, like having Marion in my world and Helen in Eugene, Oregon. I mean, I've had some wonderful encounters. So I'm just thrilled.
yeah,
I've had people go on trips with me. Dorothy Burke was one of my junkies. She went to Mexico with me several times. And boy, we've had some laughs. So you folks know how to have fun. You
yeah.
do.
Well,
And I'm really
it's
looking forward
a
to
lovely
it.
country. You'll enjoy
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
And I need a really good dose of nature. I live super suburban. And like I said, I'm only 15 minutes to the White House. And like right now, I feel like I'm living at ground zero. So, um,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really ready for
Well,
a nice
come over
dose.
here. It's you're coming at a lovely time of the year. And you're coming to some beautiful parts of
Yeah.
Australia. So yeah, we're really looking forward to having you. Thank you once
And I'm
again.
really mulling over that talk I have to give. There's so many possible interpretations. I've really been mulling that over and pinning things in my head and jotting down some notes already because I
Yeah,
think it'll be really fun.
yeah.
I love to talk.
Mm,
It's
wonderful.
what I
Well,
do.
we're very super excited to see you. Thank you so much to everybody for spending some time with us on a Sunday morning, and thank you, Bonnie, for staying up.
Thank you, all of you. So you guys have a great day, and I'm gonna probably put my feet up.
Sounds
Thank you for
wonderful. Will you
coming,
have
everybody. I really
have
appreciate it.
lovely? Thank you, Bonnie. We'll see you soon.